Let's see now. What achievements have I gotten so far? Let's see. Vecna, hero of Battle of Autobot City, hero of the Battle of Tanab, First Romulan War, Battle at Arkham City. Oh, are we on? Are we on camera? Hello everybody, Sparkster1701 here. And if my voice sounds a little weird today, don't be alarmed. I had a cavity drilled out just before this video was filmed, so we're going to persevere through things and get down to our latest Pretender review for this month. And this time around, we're looking at the Autobot Scout Sky High. Sky High was among many of the Pretenders that was released late in 1988 as part of the second wave of the toys. So he would only be available roughly in 1988 and would be discontinued sometime in 1989. He functions as a scout, and by about that time, the Transformer line was starting to phase out scout-like characters. Sky High is among the few Autobot Pretenders that was released at that time to feature an animal motif on the chest. As we have previously reviewed, Groundbreaker had a bear or some sort of cat-like creature on his chest. Splashdown had a shark. And it appears that Sky High features a hawk pattern. Now, he just goes around claiming that he is the Hawk. Unfortunately, that's been done already. But taking a look at this figure, it's about standard for normal Pretenders of the original Pretender size. Meaning basically we have a large humanoid shell that the robot can fit in, and the robot has a very simplistic transformation. But Sky High's is a little more unique than many of the others that were released in that wave. We're going to set the shell aside for the moment, and this way we can concentrate on the robot itself. This is, of course, Sky High, who also shares his name with a Micromaster that came out 2 years later in the Air Patrol. That is the second instance of a Generation 1 Transformer sharing its name with another character in the G1 line. The only other one to do that was Barrage. Barrage, of course, was a Decepticon Deluxe Insecticon and an Autobot Micromaster. However, Sky High seems to get it more noticeably due to the fact that the toys were released relatively close to each other, and they were both on the same faction. Looking at Sky High's articulation, it's very, very basic, as we can rotate his arms at the shoulder all the way, or at least his arm that is empty can rotate all the way. The gun does make that impossible. And his legs can be raised up all the way up to his chest, so he can do quite the high kick. And of course there is articulation at the ankle, but that's more for transforming him than anything else. Now, of course, speaking about transforming Sky High, we're going to do that now. And we're going to show off his rather unique alternate mode. First off, we've got to remove him of his weapon. Then we put his arms straight up in the air, like an I surrender pose, and then we fold down his feet. And then we're going to grab his shoulders and we will fold them onto his backside, and then rotate the legs so they come up onto his chest. And then we flip him over onto his belly. Then to complete the look, we have to attach the gun, like so, on the hole in his chest, so that it points out the back. And then lastly, we get the scythe weapon, and we mount that into the hole on the gun. And Sky High becomes a helicopter. Now, granted, this isn't the most exciting look, and it is kind of on the chunky side and on the stupid-looking side. But when you consider the fact that all the others that became aircraft in this size of Pretender all pretty much were basically the same. Well, not entirely the same. The two Decepticon ones, Bombburst and Bugly, they tended to have it where their wings were formed by the guns that the robots carried. The other one is the Autobot Cloudburst, who we will be reviewing here later. We will be reviewing him during the month. He basically, the gun attached to his nose, but again, they were all winged aircraft. Sky High gets some points for being something a little different. Even though it looks pretty stupid, we should give some marks for the fact that they at least tried to come up with something a little different. Unfortunately, he loses a lot of the play value because the rotor does not rotate. So, playability kind of falls out on this toy. And that's the sad part about it, folks. Now, of course, with all Pretenders, he's able to be put inside the shell. And, of course, that's a very simple procedure. To do that, we simply have to fold his arms back here at the shoulders, and then we fold his feet down. And then he's ready to be put inside the shell. Pop the shell apart. We just lay him into the back piece, and then gently fold the front piece on top. Just like that. We shift the arms a little bit so that we can attach the belt. And then, of course, we put on the helmet. And then he can be armed with both the gun and the rotor blade, which in this instance doubles as a scythe. And then there you have it. Sky High is in his Pretender shell, and he looks about as good as many of the others do. In some ways, he looks a little bit better. At least, if nothing else, he has this unique weapon that does make him stand out a little bit more than most of the others. And, of course, unfortunately for the Pretenders, their arms only rotate at the shoulder. If you get full rotation, though, you may have to adjust the weapons so that it does allow the arm to clear the leg, as you just saw that I had to do there with the gun. But anyway, that's Sky High in his Pretender shell. Let's take a moment now and take a look at all of Sky High's loose parts, should you be buying one loose on the market. And of course we will start off with the Pretender shell. Its base color is in red, and all the other colors are pretty much painted over it, so you will have to watch for paint wear. As you can see, there's a nice little gash here on the legs. Of course, this one wasn't part of my childhood. This one was bought as an adult collector. Of course, like all of them that are of this size, it's a two-piece shell. This is the front side. And of course, the rear side. Not much to really see back here. And of course, we have one of his weapons here. It is the rotor/scythe. It is made of thin plastic, but it is soft plastic, so it will bend and give. Although I would recommend you do be careful with how much it does bend, so you don't stress wear it. Unfortunately, it's all one solid piece. It would have been nice if they would have put something down here on the knob where it would have allowed it to spin when it's in the helicopter mode. And of course, we also have this large black belt. Nothing really fancy about it, other than the fact that it does fit rather snugly on the figure, but again, the flaps of it at least are made of a soft plastic, so it will bend and give as needed, but the midsection is of course made of hard plastic. But of course, when you consider what this is going to be covering, you do want something hard there. Joke intended. And then we next have his gun. The instructions describe as a stun gun. So apparently his weapon is non-lethal, or intended to be. And of course, at the top it has the hole in it for the scythe to connect when it says the helicopter. The bottom side is, of course, rather hollow, but it does have two pegs in it. The smaller one, of course, is for the robot, and the larger one is for the helicopter and the shell. And then lastly, we have this helmet. It's kind of strange looking, with a rather large fin on the top of it. But I don't think it's big enough to be a rudder like the Rocketeers. But I think that's kind of the aim they were trying to go with on it. And that's all of Sky High's loose parts. Moving right along now, we will take a look at Sky High's instructions. And of course, in typical Pretender style, it shows on the first page him armored up in the shell, and then the second page features the robot. It's just unfortunate that neither of them have the posability to look like that. And of course, we get to the list of all the pieces. How to arm him with the stun gun, and then how to transform him into the helicopter. Which they finish on the back side. And then they go into the short steps on how to put him inside the figure. And then lastly, we get shown how to put the stickers on, which unfortunately this sample does not have any stickers. And then, of course, at the end of the page, it's to remind you to save your robot points and how to read your tech specs. So, speaking of which, that's what we will do now. We shall bring up his tech spec. It's all done up in red to signify he is an Autobot. It even says Autobot on there. And it has a picture that includes the robot, the alternate mode, and the shell, which would be the same picture on the front of the box. It gives his name as Sky High. His function is Scout. And his motto is, imagination is the key that unlocks the chains of reality. A flying powerhouse of mechanical muscle, all brawn and no brains. Has trouble remembering where he is and why he's fighting. Sounds like the Autobots have another mental case on their hands. Leg-mounted energy beams temporarily burn out enemy visual sensors, rendering them sightless. Utility belt equipped with side-mounted plutonium blasters with suborbital capabilities. Transforms to jet helicopter with long-range assault capabilities. Helicopter rotor also doubles as a molecular bond-smashing sonic scythe. Also armed with impulse-scrambling stun gun that jams enemy frequencies. Alright, so they make Sky High out to be that he's a little bit of a mental case, but that he's got plenty of weaponry on him. Are they really sure they want to do this? At any rate, we put the decoder on here, and let's take a look at what it says. It gives his strength as 6, and his intelligence is 8. A guy with an 8 for intelligence is all brawn and no brains? Come on. His speed is 7, as is his endurance. His rank is 6, his courage is 8, his firepower is 7, and his skill is 8. So, aside from his strength only being just barely above average, the decoder specs make it look like that Sky High is a very powerful warrior. Now we get down to my thoughts. What do I think of Sky High? Sky High had the potential to be an interesting character. The More Than Meets the Eye guides further explain his motives as that he's very imaginative and likes to come up with little fantasies for him to act out. And that's sort of why he seems to always be lost and confused. He tends to get seeped into his daydreams so much that he often forgets what's really going on. So he's a bit of a dreamer. And in the long run, that's okay as well. I've been known to do that myself throughout a lot of the periods in my life. It helped me overcome a lot of the personal problems I had to deal with growing up. So I can relate to Sky High in that sense for that. The tech spec itself is a bit of a misnomer with it, seeming to make it out that he seems to be a little bit on the loopy side. And that's unfortunate since, especially now in modern days, that almost comes off as a bad stereotype. So I would hope that any of you modern fans out there try not to judge it for what we didn't really fully understand back in the 1980s. As for the toy itself, the robot, it's not bad. It's about what you would expect from a Pretender. The only downside is that unlike many of the others, you can't really turn his head, so you lose out on that, but otherwise, the robot's not too bad. The helicopter mode, it's a nice try, Hasbro and Takara. It's a nice try, but it falls very, very short, unfortunately. especially with the fact that you can't even spin the rotor blade on the top of it. That just kind of, it just seals the deal as it being rather dumb. It's just unfortunate that the alternate mode looks just as dumb, even without the spinning prop. The shell's not too bad. I actually kind of like this shell. It certainly ranks as one of my favorites. It's got a fair amount of armament on it, and the paint scheme doesn't look too bad on it. It's not going too far over the top with things. If I had a real complaint for the shell, it's I really don't care for the way the helmet was designed. But that's a minor gripe in my eyes, really. All in all, Sky High's not a bad figure overall. It just unfortunately suffers from, like many of the Pretenders, a rather poor design. Anyway, that's my review of the Generation 1 Autobot Scout Sky High. I hope you all enjoyed it. If you like this video, leave me a thumbs up here on YouTube. If you're new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button and join our ranks. Make sure to ring that bell so you'll be notified when I post new content. I also ask that each of you share this video with your friends and fellow collectors. That's what helps this channel grow. And also share your thoughts about Sky High in the comments down below. This is Sparkster1701 saying I will catch you all later.